Greetings YouTube. Today we're looking at an Eafengrow knife, specifically the EF76. Here we go. This is this particular one is in the jade or natural color. This is the undyed G10 color. And the first thing you're going to notice is these really great blue anodized pivots. They don't really do anything, you know, they're just essentially just washers, because the actual pivot bolt or screw is right there in the center. But they're cool. I like them. They do kind of vaguely have that iron cross thing going for them, which is a little problematic, but I still like the color, and the design is kind of cool, and I think it goes well with the overall color of the scales as well. Single position pocket clip. That's kind of annoying. There's no reason that you have a single position pocket clip in the 21st century, but we do. Interestingly, they put this groove in here, this stamp, which reinforces this section of the clip, so it actually makes it much stiffer. Without that indentation, the steel would be more flexible. So that's a nice touch. I don't actually know if I've seen it done on many knives. I'm sure it's not the only one out there, but I've not seen it, and it works quite well for retaining it in your pocket. I've been carrying this both in a pair of jeans and in a pair of cargo shorts, and it worked quite well in both situations. The scales are nicely smoothed. Nice texture to them, and they are contoured slightly so that they're not just square. They have a nice curve to them. This is a semi-open construction, and it has a nice blue spacer in the back. Not quite the same color as the pivots, but still in the same general vein. And the nice thing about that is that the lanyard hole is outside of that insert, so there is never a point where the edge of the knife is going to come into contact with whatever you use as a lanyard. And this is kind of tight. I don't think you're going to get paracord through there. You could get paracord through there if you remove the innards. That would still work. But if you like, excuse me, if you like lanyards, you can in fact attach one to this. Though it sits pretty high out of your pocket. I mean, the loop goes to here, so you got like that much sticking out of your pocket. So getting this out of your pocket, even with a clip that has a nice retention to it, is not difficult to do, and I can do it with my bare hands or while wearing gloves at work, both equally well. Interestingly, the pivot, the pin that becomes the lanyard hole is just set into the G10. There's nothing, it's not attached, it's just set into those, into little holes, little divots placed in the G10s, which is kind of interesting. So it gives you a nice clean look. I have no idea if that would be problematic as far as strength is concerned. I have never used a lanyard with such vigorous force that might be an issue, but I don't know what everybody else's life is like. Obviously, this is a flipper. Now, this has a cutout in the blade, which I find attractive, but I have tried to use this with my thumb and cannot achieve opening with this thing. As far as I'm concerned, it is just purely aesthetics. We'll look at the blade centering at the moment, and it is spot on. It's really nicely centered. So now that we've looked at that, we're gonna flip it open. And I actually don't know what to call this blade. Is it a spear point, or is it a modified drop point? I'm not quite positive because it's not quite perfectly even, and this section in here is kind of straight, but you know, so it's not a reverse tanto. I actually don't know what to call that. Now, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, which I thought was kind of interesting, is that this whole blade has got a stonewash finish, except for the flats. So the flat here and here are the same plane, but they're not stonewashed. So this was stonewashed, and then it was ground after. I find that interesting. I have no idea why they did that. It isn't good or bad, it's just a thing. But I found it interesting that they did the stonewash, and then they came back and did the final machining on these flat sections to bring them into parallel. The grind overall are pretty even, particularly for a budget knife, and I think this was like, I believe this is like in the $25 range. This is not an expensive knife. But everything is finished very well. There's no sharp edges here, not even on this lanyard hole. I mean, this thumb hole, which essentially isn't a thumb hole in my opinion, but still nicely chamfered. Everything comes out to a nice, even grind. And sometimes you don't find that in a budget knife. Sometimes the grinds will be off from one side to the other, but these are very, very close to each other. You have a flat grind, not a full flat grind, because it does not actually come to the spine, because you have these nice swedges, and I happen to be a fan of swedges. I think they're visually interesting. But this is a flat grind, and this is the D2 steel, which is the budget steel available on the market today in the EF for Eafengrow. You'll notice that the overall handle design is nicely contoured, and it is very comfortable in the hand. I really like this. And there is no jimping here. The only jimping you're going to find is right here on the flipper itself. So that's nice because it gives you a nice purchase when you want to actually flip the knife open. Liner lock. And this scale is cut down a little bit more, slightly more, and the liner itself, the thumb tab on the liner lock is chamfered as well, so that's very comfortable to use. You have about a 40% lockup on that, in the sense that it's about 40% in on the blade, and there is no appreciable motion in either this direction or side to side. It is nice and solid. If you do like your reverse grips, it is also quite comfortable in that position as well. You can also see that it is a full 4-finger grip for me. I believe this is a 3.5-inch blade. Closing is fine. I don't like a drop close knife. I know there are people out there that do, and I'm sure you could probably monkey with this and make it that. I have not done anything to that, because I like a blade that when I close it, it stays where I want it until I decide to close it, particularly on a knife that has a liner lock or a frame lock. That way I know that my thumb is clear, and one of the reasons I happen to like flippers for this is that I do this, the flipper hits my thumb, I am not in any danger. Then I can do that, and I can close this. Now I can actually open and close this with my left hand. I'm not left-handed, but if I can do it, then a left-handed person can do it as well, even though this knife is not really set up for a left-handed person. I know that's a problem. Again, it would be more comfortable for a lefty if the pocket clip were reversible, but it isn't. Now I do understand that it does give it a cleaner look on this particular scale. I still think it's kind of annoying. You can do it on this side, you can do it on that side, pretty much equally as well, and you make the knife more attractive to a wider audience, because 9% of the population are left-handed people. But, you know, it is what it is. Nice flipper action. It's a little awkward in the position I'm in here right now, but when I'm actually holding it and draw it from my pocket and hold it, it does snap open a little bit better. Doing it here with my hand on the table or at this angle is not the easiest thing in the world. I happen to really like this knife. I've been carrying it in my pocket a lot lately. It is a really nice cutter. It came out of the box with a very good edge, and it's not too thick in here, so it's a decent slicer. As Nick Shabazz has mentioned many times, if it's not thin behind the edge, it's not going to be a good cutter, and this is not thick behind the edge. And while I think he likes hollow grinds for that reason. I'm a flat grind fan. And you can still have a blade that isn't too thick, even with the flat grind. And I like the additional material because I believe that gives it a greater structural integrity. But that's just me. So, this has been the Eafengrow EF76, a nice budget knife. I'm very happy with it. I'll probably be carrying this in my pocket until I find something new.